I spent my childhood taking beatings meant for my siblings. I thought escaping would end it, but then my little sister called me sobbing. I had no choice but to go back for her. What happened next changed everything. Growing up, my parents only rewarded us children for one thing: reporting each other's mistakes. As the middle child among four siblings, I often felt invisible. I noticed things others missed. My parents believed they controlled us completely, but they were wrong about me. My older brother Alex would do anything for our father's approval. Once when I was 5 and Alex was 7, I accidentally spilled water on our living room carpet. Before I could clean it, Alex was already running downstairs. "Leo knocked over his cup in the living room," I heard him tell our parents. I froze, hearing our father's heavy footsteps heading for the drawer where he kept the wooden paddle. I lay face down on my bed, a pillow muffling my cries as the punishment came. 1, 2, 3 strikes. I received no dinner that night. While I cried alone, I heard my parents praising Alex downstairs. "You're such a responsible boy," my mother said proudly. "We can always count on you," my father added. That same year, my younger twin sisters Emma and Olivia were born. My parents treated them wonderfully until their 3rd birthday. Then the affection disappeared. No kind words, no hugs, nothing unless they reported on someone else's mistakes. By age 10, I had received countless punishments: for missing a spot while cleaning, for speaking too loudly, for crying when hurt. Meanwhile, my siblings rarely faced consequences because I refused to report them. Sometimes I even accepted blame for their mistakes. This made them feel safe around me, but none returned this protection. They cherished our parents' approval more than our relationship. Everyone began viewing me as the troublemaker. If I breathed too loudly while studying, my books would disappear for days. If I used the wrong towel after showering, I wasn't allowed to bathe for the next 2 days. By 18, my understanding of family was so distorted that loving families on television seemed false to me. Years of merely surviving left me with poor grades, a 1.2 GPA. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty: I needed to escape. When college time arrived, I paid a classmate named David to let me sleep on his dorm room floor. I panicked when his parents visited for Thanksgiving. All week, my heart raced as I prepared to be perfect. When they knocked, I quickly opened the door and closed my eyes, bracing for punishment. Instead, they thanked me for my promptness. His mother even hugged me. Throughout the evening, I remained silent and tense, ready to clean any mess. When they left, I expected David to berate me for my awkwardness. That's what my childhood trauma predicted. Instead, he hugged me and thanked me for being so helpful with his parents. That's when I realized how abnormal my upbringing had been. The next day, my twin sister Emma called. Her voice was barely audible. "Please help me. I'm sorry." Then she hung up. My heart shattered. I immediately drove to my parents' house and brought Emma back to David's dorm. There, she showed me her bruised body. With me gone, my family needed a new target. Emma had become that target. I treated her injuries while she repeatedly apologized. I felt no anger toward her or my siblings, only hatred for our parents. David helped create a space for Emma behind his desk where no one would find her during room inspections. We took turns bringing food from the cafeteria. For the first time, Emma slept peacefully through the night. Our peace lasted briefly. My parents began calling constantly, first with fake concern. "Leo, dear, have you seen Emma?" We're so worried. When I didn't respond, their messages grew threatening. "Bring her back now or face consequences." I blocked their numbers. Then Alex started calling. "Hey, little brother, Mom and Dad are really concerned about Emma. Just let us know she's okay." I almost believed him until I remembered how often he had betrayed me to please our parents. Emma feared they would find her. She jumped at every noise and refused to go outside. She slept curled into a protective ball. "What if they call the police?" she asked one night. "What if they claim you kidnapped me?" I hadn't considered that. Emma was still a minor. Taking her could result in serious charges against me, but returning her wasn't an option after seeing her injuries. "We'll figure something out," I promised, though unsure how. The next day, David informed me that his resident advisor was becoming suspicious about having an extra person in the room. We needed to find another place quickly. We had almost no money despite my part-time campus coffee shop job. I spent days asking around campus for anyone with extra space. Most people thought I was strange. Finally, I met Megan from my psychology class, who mentioned her off-campus apartment had an unused storage room. "It's tiny," she warned. "Just enough space for a small bed and maybe a dresser." I nearly hugged her with gratitude. "That's perfect, thank you." We moved Emma that weekend. David helped us carry the few things we had collected: second-hand clothes, a cheap mattress purchased online, and a plastic bin for her belongings. Megan's roommates, Jasmine and Rebecca, were understanding when I explained Emma was escaping a difficult home situation. My stepfather was terrible, Rebecca told Emma while helping her arrange the tiny room. I understand. Emma relaxed more with other women around. I still slept on David's floor, but spent most free time at the apartment with Emma. Things improved for about a week. I took extra work shifts while Emma earned money helping Megan and her roommates with homework. Then Alex appeared at the coffee shop during my shift. My stomach dropped seeing him at the counter in his expensive jacket, wearing that familiar, smug expression. Hey, little brother, he said casually. Can we talk? My manager nodded that I could take a break. I led Alex to a corner table away from other customers. What do you want? I asked coldly. Alex sighed dramatically. Look, I know you're angry, but this situation with Emma has gone too far. Mom and Dad are extremely upset. Good, I replied. They should be. Do you know what they did to her after I left? He shifted uncomfortably. They said she was disobeying rules. You know how she can be. I stared at him in disgust. I saw the bruises covering her body, Alex. They hurt her because she didn't report Olivia for something minor. That's sick, and you know it. They're our parents, he said quietly. They're strict, yes, but they love us. They want what's best for us. I nearly laughed. Is that what you tell yourself? That beating your children is love? That making them terrified of small mistakes is good parenting? Alex's expression hardened. You always were dramatic, always playing the victim. I'm not playing anything. I'm protecting my sister. She's a minor, Leo. This is kidnapping. Mom and Dad could press charges. There it was, the threat I'd been expecting. I leaned forward, keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. Tell them to proceed. I'll show police Emma's bruises. I'll tell them everything. Is that what they want? For everyone to know what they've been doing to us? Alex's confidence faltered slightly. He hadn't expected me to stand firm. Just let me talk to her, he said, changing tactics. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I shook my head. Not happening. Tell Mom and Dad to leave us alone. We're finished being their victims. I stood to return to work, but Alex grabbed my arm. They know where you work now. They'll find her eventually. You can't hide her forever. I pulled away. Watch me. After my shift ended, I rushed to Megan's apartment. I needed to warn Emma that Alex knew where I worked. When I arrived, I found her sitting with Olivia. My other twin sister looked up with red eyes. Hi, Leo. I froze at the doorway. What are you doing here? Emma spoke before Olivia could answer. She came to check on me. She was worried. I looked between them, my mind racing. This couldn't be coincidence. Alex appears at my workplace, and suddenly Olivia shows up at the apartment. How did you find this place? I asked Olivia. She looked down. I followed you one day after your class. I wanted to make sure Emma was okay. Something felt wrong. I pulled Emma into her small bedroom. Did you tell her where we're staying? I whispered. Emma shook her head. No, I promise. She just appeared about an hour ago. She said she misses me. I glanced back at Olivia texting on her phone. My suspicion grew. I think this is a setup, I told Emma. Alex visited me at work today. Now Olivia appears here? They're working together to find you. Emma's eyes widened with fear. What should we do? Pack your things. We need to leave immediately. While Emma quickly gathered her few belongings, I returned to speak with Olivia. I noticed how she angled her phone away from me. Who are you texting? I asked casually. Just a friend, she replied too quickly. I nodded toward her phone. May I see? Why? Don't you trust me? She tried sounding offended, but I heard nervousness in her voice. Not really, no. Olivia's expression fell. She knew she was caught. They're really worried about her, Leo. They just want her to come home. So they can hurt her again? No thanks. It's not like that, Olivia insisted. They promised they'd improve. They feel terrible about what happened. I almost believed her until her phone received a new message. I glimpsed the screen. It was from our mother. Is she coming? Dad's waiting in the car. My blood turned cold. They were outside waiting. You need to leave, I told Olivia, standing up. Now. Leo, please. Now. I rarely raised my voice, but when I did, it had an effect. Olivia flinched and grabbed her coat. They'll find her eventually, she said, heading for the door. You can't keep her hidden forever. After she left, I texted Megan, warning her not to come home yet. Then I took Emma and her backpack of belongings out the apartment's back exit. Just as I spotted our father's car pulling up to the front entrance. We spent that night in a cheap motel at the edge of town, paid for with my last paycheck. Emma cried herself to sleep while I watched from the window for any sign of our parents. Why won't they just leave us alone? She asked through tears. I had no good answer. Control, maybe. Or they're worried we'll tell someone what they've done. Either way, I knew we couldn't keep running forever. The next morning, I called in sick to work and researched our options online. I discovered that at 16, Emma might qualify for emancipation, especially with evidence of abuse. But that meant going to court and showing her bruises to strangers. I wasn't sure she was ready for that. While reading, my phone received a text from an unknown number. It contained a photo of Emma and me entering the motel last night with a message. "We know where you are. Bring her home or we call the police." I showed Emma the message. Her face paled. "They're going to take me back," she whispered. "No, they won't," I promised, though uncertain how to keep that promise. We immediately checked out and took a bus back toward campus. I texted David, asking if we could stay one more night while I figured things out. He agreed but warned his RA was growing suspicious. Near David's dorm, I noticed a campus security officer talking to someone who looked like our mother. I quickly guided Emma in the opposite direction toward the library. "They're everywhere," she said, panic rising in her voice. We found a quiet corner on the third floor to hide. While Emma pretended to read, I called Megan to see if returning to her apartment was safe. She didn't answer. I tried Rebecca next. "Strange question," Rebecca said when she answered. "Did you tell your parents where you were staying? They showed up this morning looking for you and Emma." My heart sank. "What did you tell them?" "Nothing. Megan told them to leave or she'd call the police. They left but seemed very angry." I thanked her and hung up. We couldn't return there either. By evening, we had few options left. I had less than $20, insufficient for another motel. David texted that his RA was conducting room checks that night, so his dorm wasn't available. We spent the night in a 24-hour laundromat, taking turns sleeping on hard plastic chairs. The next morning, I woke to find Emma missing. My heart nearly stopped until I spotted her outside, talking on her phone. When she returned, her expression was unreadable. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to mask my panic. "Olivia," she admitted. "She wants to meet, just her and me." "Absolutely not. It's a trap." Emma sat beside me. "What if it's not?" "She says she wants to help. She feels bad about what happened." "She felt bad last time too, right before leading them straight to us." "She says Mom and Dad are at work. She just wants to talk." I could see hope in Emma's eyes. She desperately wanted to believe that at least one sibling would support us. I understood. I'd spent years hoping for the same. "Fine," I relented, "but I'm coming with you and we meet somewhere public." We agreed to meet Olivia at a campus coffee shop, not where I worked. I made Emma promise to stay within my sight constantly. When we arrived, Olivia was already seated by the window, alone as promised. "Thank you for coming," she said as we sat across from her. She looked exhausted with dark circles under her eyes. "I'm sorry about yesterday. They forced me." "Forced you how?" I asked skeptically. "They said if I didn't help find Emma, they'd..." She glanced at Emma before continuing. "They'd start treating me like they treated you." I wanted to be angry, but I understood her fear completely. "So why help us now? Won't they punish you?" "They don't know I'm here. I told them I was going to the library." Olivia reached into her backpack and pulled out an envelope containing $300 in cash. "It's my birthday money," she explained. "I want you to have it, to help Emma." After years of betrayal from my siblings, this small kindness felt strange. "There's something else," Olivia continued quietly. "They're reporting Emma as a runaway tomorrow. They've already spoken with the police." Emma squeezed my hand under the table. "What about Leo? Will they say he kidnapped me?" Olivia nodded. "That's their plan. They're telling everyone you're unstable, Leo, that you've always been troubled and manipulated Emma into running away." Of course they were. They'd spent years portraying me as the family troublemaker. "We need to act first," I said, thinking aloud. "We need to tell our side before they do." "How?" Emma asked. "Who would believe us over them?" "We need evidence. Photos of your injuries, for starters." "I took some," Emma said quietly. "When you first brought me to David's room. I was afraid they'd heal and no one would believe me." "Smart thinking. I should have suggested that myself." "What about witnesses?" Olivia suggested. "I could tell people what I've seen." I looked at her skeptically. "Would you really oppose Mom and Dad?" She hesitated, then nodded. "I'm tired of being afraid constantly, of watching what happened to you happen to Emma. It's wrong." For the first time in days, I felt hopeful. Maybe we weren't completely alone. As we left the coffee shop, my phone received a campus alert email with the subject line, Safety notice, missing student. The email described Emma as a missing minor, possibly with her brother, described as potentially requiring intervention. Anyone with information should contact campus security immediately. They're turning everyone against us, I said, showing Emma and Olivia the email. Olivia looked horrified. They didn't waste any time. We needed a new plan quickly. With Emma's face now known across campus, hiding would become nearly impossible. We need to speak with someone official, I told Emma. Someone who can help us navigate this legally. I remembered my psychology professor, Dr. Martin Wilson, who had mentioned working with Child Protective Services before becoming a professor. I emailed him requesting an urgent meeting, keeping details vague but emphasizing it was an emergency. He responded within minutes, offering to meet that afternoon in his office. Olivia insisted on joining us, and having another witness could only strengthen our case. We spent the next hours hiding in the library, jumping at every sound, afraid someone would recognize Emma from the alert. At 3 p.m., we carefully made our way to Dr. Wilson's office, taking back paths and keeping Emma's hood up. When we arrived, he ushered us inside quickly. Leo, I saw the alert about your sister. I assume that's why you wanted to meet? I nodded gratefully that he wasn't immediately calling security. It's not what they're claiming. We need help. Over the next hour, we explained everything. The years of abuse, the system rewarding children for reporting each other, the punishments, the psychological manipulation. Emma showed her bruise photos. Olivia confirmed our story, adding details of incidents she had witnessed. Dr. Wilson listened without interrupting, his expression growing increasingly troubled. What you're describing is serious child abuse, he said when we finished. The fact it continued so long without anyone noticing is deeply concerning. No one noticed because we were trained not to tell, I explained, and because they were careful about where they left marks. He nodded grimly. I believe you, and I want to help, but taking Emma without legal authority has complicated matters. I didn't know what else to do, I said. I couldn't leave her there. I understand, but we need to address this narrative they're creating about you kidnapping her. He thought for a moment. The first step is filing a formal report with Child Protective Services about the abuse. That will trigger an investigation. Will they make Emma return home during the investigation? I asked, dreading the answer. Normally, yes, but given the photographic evidence and severity of the allegations, we might secure an emergency placement for her. He looked at Olivia. For both of them, potentially. Olivia seemed surprised. Me too. If you corroborate the abuse, yes, you could be removed from the home as well. She bit her lip, clearly conflicted. We can include you in the report too, Doctor, Wilson assured her. For the first time in days, I saw a legitimate way forward, a legal path to keep my sister safe. What about Leo? Emma asked. They're saying he kidnapped me. Dr. Wilson frowned. That's more complicated. You're an adult, Leo, so you can't enter foster care, and technically, you did take a minor without legal authority. So I could face jail for trying to protect my sister? The unfairness made my voice shake. Not if we handle this correctly, he said. We need to file the CPS report immediately. Then you should present yourself to the authorities voluntarily with Emma and explain the situation. The thought of facing police terrified me, but he was right. We couldn't continue running. What about our parents? Olivia asked quietly. What will happen to them? If allegations are substantiated, they could face criminal charges, Dr. Wilson explained. At minimum, they'll lose custody temporarily while the case is investigated. I tried imagining our parents facing actual consequences. It seemed impossible. They always presented themselves as perfect parents to outsiders. As if reading my thoughts, Doctor. Wilson added, this won't be easy. Your parents will fight back. They'll deny everything. They'll portray Leo as the problem. Are you all prepared for that? Emma nodded immediately. Olivia hesitated, then nodded too. I'm tired of being afraid, she said. I want it to stop. Dr. Wilson helped us file the CPS report that afternoon. He documented Emma's injuries and recorded statements from all three of us. Then he arranged for a CPS caseworker named Patricia to meet us at the campus police station. I'll accompany you, he promised. I'll ensure they understand the situation. Walking to the police station, I felt a strange mixture of terror and relief. For years, I had carried the secret of our home life. Now it was finally becoming public. Whatever happened next, at least we weren't hiding anymore. Patricia was waiting when we arrived. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a professional demeanor. She listened to our story again, examined Emma's photos, and took detailed notes. I'm requesting an emergency removal order for both Emma and Olivia. she told us. The campus police were less sympathetic. They took my statement about why I had taken Emma, but seemed skeptical. One officer kept referring to it as a family dispute, rather than abuse. "We need to contact your parents," he told me. "Let them know we found Emma." My heart raced thinking about our parents arriving, potentially taking Emma back. "Please," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "She has documented injuries. There's an active CPS investigation now. You can't send her back to them." The officer looked to Patricia for confirmation. She nodded firmly. "The children will be placed in emergency foster care pending the investigation. I have the paperwork here." I felt a wave of relief, quickly followed by new fear. "What about me? Am I being arrested?" The officer sighed. "Not at this time, but don't leave town. This investigation is ongoing." As we waited for the foster care placement to be arranged, my phone received a text from Alex. "Mom and Dad know you went to the police. They're heading there now. They're furious." I showed the message to Patricia, who immediately spoke to the officers. They moved us to a private room away from the entrance. Not a moment too soon. Through the window, I saw our parents' car arrive. They stormed inside, my father leading with that familiar controlled rage expression. My mother followed, already performing her concerned parent act. "I want to see my daughters," I heard my father demand at the front desk. "They've been missing for days. We've been worried sick." The officer directed them to a different room, away from us. Through the wall, I heard my mother's voice rising in pitch as she played the distraught parent perfectly. "My son has always been troubled," she was saying. "He's been filling Emma's head with lies. He's the one who should be investigated." Patricia patted my hand reassuringly. "This is common in abuse cases. Perpetrators always try to discredit the person reporting the abuse." I nodded, but her words provided little comfort. My parents were so convincing. They'd had years of practice presenting a perfect image while hiding their true behavior. After what seemed like hours, Patricia returned with news. "We found a placement for tonight, a temporary foster home that can take both girls." Emma immediately grabbed my hand. "What about Leo? Can't he come too?" Patricia shook her head gently. "I'm sorry, but he's an adult. The foster system is only for minors." "But we need him," Emma insisted, tears forming. "He's the only one who's ever protected us." "You'll be able to see each other," Patricia assured her. "Just don't stay in the same place." I hugged Emma, trying to be strong for her, despite my breaking heart at the thought of separation. "It's okay," I told her. "This is temporary. We're doing the right thing." As Patricia prepared to take the girls to their foster placement, an officer entered with news that made my blood run cold. "Your parents want to press charges against you for kidnapping," he said. "They're speaking with the district attorney now." Patricia looked alarmed. "That's ridiculous. He was protecting his sister from documented abuse." "That's for the courts to decide," the officer said with a shrug. "For now, we need to take a formal statement from Leo." As Emma and Olivia left with Patricia, I sat alone in the interview room, wondering if I would be arrested for trying to save my sister. After everything we had endured, it seemed my parents might win after all. But then I remembered the photos of Emma's injuries, Olivia's statement, and the CPS investigation now officially underway. For the first time in our lives, people were listening to us instead of our parents. Maybe, just maybe, the truth would finally emerge. I sat in that interview room for what felt like eternity. The officer kept repeating the same questions as if trying to make me contradict myself. Did I know taking Emma was illegal? Did I realize I could go to jail? Was I aware that my parents were concerned citizens, simply trying to protect their daughter from my negative influence? I wanted to scream. Finally, Dr. Wilson returned with another man in a suit who introduced himself as Michael, a lawyer from the university's legal aid clinic. He immediately informed the officer I wouldn't answer any more questions without legal representation. The officer looked annoyed but stopped the interview. "They're pushing hard for kidnapping charges," Michael told me once we were alone. "But we have a strong case for the necessity defense. You had a reasonable belief that your sister faced imminent danger." I nodded, too exhausted to feel much of anything. "Where are Emma and Olivia? Are they okay?" "They're safe, Doctor," Wilson assured me. "Patricia placed them with an experienced foster family. Your parents cannot reach them there." That was something, at least. Michael advised me to find somewhere away from campus to stay, since my parents knew all my usual locations. Dr. Wilson offered his guest room, which probably violated university policies, but I was too grateful to care. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking my phone for updates from Emma or Olivia. Around 3 a.m., I received a text from an unknown number. "It's Alex. We need to talk. Alone." I almost ignored it. Alex had been our parents' loyal supporter as long as I could remember, but something made me respond. Why should I trust you? His reply came immediately. Because I'm finished being their puppet. Meet me tomorrow at 10 o'clock at the coffee shop on Maple Street. I showed the text to Dr. Wilson in the morning. He thought it might be another trap, but agreed discovering Alex's intentions was worthwhile. He insisted on driving me there and waiting nearby, just in case. The coffee shop was crowded with morning customers when I arrived. Alex was already seated in a corner booth, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His usually perfect appearance was disheveled, and he wore yesterday's clothes. "You look terrible," I said, sitting across from him. He almost smiled. "Yeah, it's been a difficult few days." I didn't waste time with small talk. "What do you want, Alex?" He stared into his coffee for a long moment. I saw the pictures of Emma. "What pictures?" "The ones showing her injuries. The CPS worker showed them to me yesterday during my interview." He looked up at me, his eyes red-rimmed. "I didn't know it was that severe, Leo. I swear." I wanted to believe him. Part of me even felt sorry for him. But I'd spent too many years watching him choose our parents over us. "You knew," I said flatly. "Maybe not the details, but you knew what they were capable of. You just didn't care as long as it wasn't happening to you." He flinched as if I'd struck him. "That's not fair." "Isn't it? Where were you when I was being beaten for spilling water? Or when Emma was being hit for not reporting Olivia? You were downstairs getting praised for being the perfect son?" Alex's eyes filled with tears. "I was a child too, Leo. I was just trying to survive, same as you." I nearly walked away then, but something in his expression stopped me. For the first time, I saw genuine remorse in my brother's eyes. "Why are you here?" I asked again, softer this time. He took a deep breath. "They're planning to destroy you. They've already convinced half the family you're mentally unstable. They're telling everyone you manipulated Emma into fabricating abuse stories." That sounded exactly like something they would do. And I won't let them do it." Alex showed me his phone with a series of text messages between him and our parents from recent days. Messages where they explicitly discussed their plan to discredit me and regain custody of the twins. Messages where my father talked about teaching Emma a lesson she'll never forget once they got her back. My hands shook while scrolling through them. "My God, Alex." "I know. And there's more." He swiped to his voice recordings and played one. It was my mother's voice, crystal clear. "We just need to convince everyone Leo is unstable. No one will believe him then. We've been establishing that groundwork for years." I stared at him in disbelief. "Why would you record this?" "Because I finally realized what they are." He looked down, ashamed. "What they made me become. I don't want to be their weapon anymore, Leo." For the first time, I felt I was seeing the real Alex. Not the perfect son our parents had created, but someone broken and frightened, just like the rest of us. "Will you testify?" I asked, "if necessary?" He nodded without hesitation. "I'll do whatever is needed to keep the twins safe and help you." I texted Michael immediately about Alex's evidence. He called back right away, saying this could change everything. The texts and recording would be crucial for both the CPS case and dismissing potential kidnapping charges. Over the next few days, events moved quickly. The district attorney decided not to pursue kidnapping charges against me after reviewing Alex's evidence. CPS expanded their investigation, interviewing teachers, neighbors, and even distant relatives about our parents' behavior. Olivia was thriving in foster care, finally free from constant fear. She texted daily updates about how kind her foster parents were and how she was sleeping through the night for the first time in years. Emma struggled more with the adjustment. She experienced nightmares and panic attacks, but at least she was safe. A week after our meeting, Alex called in panic. "They know I gave you the texts and recording. Dad is furious. He tried to hit me, but I left before he could." I immediately told him to come to Dr. Wilson's house. When he arrived, his cheek was bruised where our father had managed to land a punch before Alex escaped. "Welcome to the club," I said, handing him an ice pack. He gave a hollow laugh. "I deserve that. For all the times I didn't stop him from hurting you." All four of us children were now safely away from our parents. It felt surreal. Our parents fought back forcefully. They hired an expensive lawyer who portrayed me as the family troublemaker who had manipulated my siblings into making false accusations. They brought relatives who testified about what wonderful parents they were, how they'd never observed any signs of abuse. But they couldn't explain away Emma's injury photos, Alex's recordings, or the consistent testimony from all four children. The judge at the dependency hearing was a no-nonsense woman named Judge Thompson, who saw through their act. When my mother tried her concerned parent routine, crying about how much she missed her children. The judge interrupted her. Mrs. Carter, I've reviewed the evidence thoroughly. The injuries documented on your daughter's body are not consistent with normal discipline. They align with prolonged, severe physical abuse. My mother's face hardened instantly, her tears vanishing as if they never existed. It was the face we knew from home, cold, angry, calculating. These children have received everything, she hissed. Everything. And this is how they repay us? With lies? The judge raised an eyebrow. I believe you've just demonstrated exactly why your children fear you, Mrs. Carter. Ultimately, the judge terminated their parental rights to the twins. Since Alex and I were adults, we didn't require legal protection, but the judge issued a restraining order preventing our parents from contacting any of us. It should have felt like a victory. We were finally free from them, but I just felt empty. 18 years of abuse don't disappear with one court decision. The real work came in the months that followed. We all began therapy, individually and as siblings. Emma and Olivia remained in foster care, but I visited them weekly. Alex rented an apartment near campus and let me stay on his couch until I could afford my own place. Slowly, we started to heal, to learn what normal families should be like, to unlearn the toxic lessons our parents had taught us. It wasn't easy. We all experienced setbacks. Emma still flinched whenever someone raised their voice. Olivia still apologized constantly for minor mistakes. Alex still struggled with guilt over his role in our family dynamic, and I still had nightmares about failing to protect my siblings. But we were improving, one day at a time. 6 months after the court ruling, I received a text from David, my former roommate. You need to see this. He sent a link to a local news article. My parents had moved to a small town 3 states away. They had joined a church, presenting themselves as a loving couple whose children had been unjustly taken by the system. They had even begun the process of becoming foster parents, but someone had recognized them from a database of parents with terminated rights. The article included their mugshots. They had been arrested for attempting to falsify their backgrounds to gain access to vulnerable children. I showed the article to Alex when he visited that evening. He read it silently, then looked up at me. They'll never change, will they? He asked quietly. I shook my head. And that was the truth. We had broken the cycle. We had escaped. We were building something new together, a real family based on support instead of fear, on protection instead of betrayal. Last weekend, all siblings gathered at Alex's apartment. We ordered pizza, played board games, and simply enjoyed being together without walking on eggshells. At one point, I observed my brothers and sisters laughing and arguing over Monopoly and felt something I had rarely experienced: peace. Emma noticed me watching them and sat beside me. What are you thinking about? She asked. I put my arm around her shoulders. Just that we're going to be all right. She leaned against me. Yes, we are. It wasn't a perfect ending. We still had considerable healing ahead, but for the first time, I believed we actually had a future worth anticipating. One where we defined ourselves not by what our parents had done to us, but by what we chose to do for each other.